Hello and welcome to this, the finals of Grand Prix Utrecht. We see the number 1 and number 2 seeds are going to be squaring off here, both with Mardu Ballista. Do we think that this might be the deck of the tournament?
It is definitely the deck of the tournament. Not very many people have been talking about it, but the ones that have brought it here have done really well. There have been 3 players in the top 8 and 2 of them in the finals. Converting very well and impressing on the way. It's not just about the Ballista, but it's about the Planeswalkers and the overall game plan that they brought to the table. It's not as fast, but it's certainly very effective.
Yeah, while Fabrizio Campanino does have Toolcraft Exemplar on turn 1, that is not so pivotal to the game plan of these decks as it is perhaps the more traditional Mardu Vehicles decks that we saw at Pro Tour Aether Revolt. Here, there's a little bit more potential for a late game charge with Planeswalkers, with that Walking Ballista, and with things like Thalia shutting down some options. Fatal Push here, dealing with Toolcraft Exemplar, so Heart of Kiran not going to be able to get crewed as easily by Fabrizio Campanino in subsequent turns. And the life totals barely troubled thus far.
Yeah, Fabrizio has a very good hand, though. He has a Scrap Heap Scrounger as well to keep up some semblance of pressure and keep accruing the Heart of Kiran. And the first game is actually going to look a little more traditional, like a traditional Mardu mirror match, just because both players have Heart of Kirans and have their removal and whatnot. So it's fairly traditional, but it's when the sideboarding starts when we're going to see some crazier things. So let's see what the Samuel Vuillot has here in store. He has a Thalia. That's nice.
Yeah, there are a lot of non-basic lands in this matchup, so making your opponents come into play tapped is certainly an important feature. Although it looks like there is a Plains on turn 3 for Fabrizio Campanino. What does he have on turn 3? He has both a Toolcraft Exemplar and a Scrap Heap Scrounger, both coming to play tapped. I mean, Samuel already knew that he wasn't going to have to worry about any crewing of that Heart of Kiran, but it turns out 2 creatures both coming in tapped here. What's he got as a follow-up?
Yeah, he just drew a Gideon. I also saw an Unlicensed Disintegration. He has the 4th land, Inspire of Industry. Let's see if he can convert here. I think he's going to go for a Thraben Inspector, though, and leaving a mana for that Unlicensed Disintegration, which I really like as a plan.
Yeah, these builds, they tend to go a little bit bigger on mana. They're not quite as quick, but what they lose in speed, they gain in resiliency. More Planeswalkers, more big flyers, basically pushing for a slightly later game, which means that against other Mardu decks, they look pretty good.
Yeah, the basic difference in those versions is that compared to traditional Mardu Vehicles decks, they run fewer Inventor's Apprentices, they run no Depalas, and most important, they don't play any veteran motorists, which were never really that impressive in the mirror match, and being able to have Walking Ballistas to shoot down opposing veteran motorists is very nice.
Yeah, and also after sideboarding, these can almost feel like Planeswalker control decks. Typically you see Obnix lists, you see the likes of Chandra in some of these lists, Nahiri. You can really go big on the Planeswalker plan and say that you're just going to control the board a little bit more. Their Unlicensed Disintegration plus a clue in play means that Heart of Kiran not doing a whole lot for Fabrizio Campanino, and he drops, taking another 3 damage there.
Yeah, down to 17 here, so the first blood. Now comes an important turn for Fabrizio. If the question is if he can land something big, something important. Remember, there's still the Thalia in play, so any non-basic lands come into play tapped.
As do any creatures.
Yeah. This is a little bit annoying. So a tapped PNLR and a tapped top token. At least he's developing a wide enough board. But Thalia not only annoying for lands and creatures, but also the 3/2 body with the first strike is quite problematic.
So Samuel Vuillot here, drawing for his turn. Thalia already doing good work for him. We've seen him hold off on Gideon for now because he wanted Unlicensed Disintegration. Maybe this is the turn for him to pull the trigger.
Let's see. Samuel Vuillot already presenting. Okay, so my white-black Stories is going to go to the side because he's about to play a Gideon, I think. There it is.
And Gideon, every single ability on Gideon getting played a fair amount. One of the reasons that it's one of the most powerful Planeswalkers that we've seen of late. In this case, making a Knight ally token.
Yeah, well, I've seen Sam Vuillot be very predictable with his use of Gideon, but I quite like it. Comes into play, he puts a 2/2 into play. Next turn, plus attack. He just starts swinging with those Gideons as soon as possible.
Fabrizio Campanino here, he's looking at a hand that has a Walking Ballista. He's got another Heart of Kiran that he can play. A few options available to him. That Scrap Heap Scrounger Not very exciting on attacks or blocks in the face of Thalia, because first strike, a big deal.
And here comes the tapped Walking Ballista.
But the Walking Ballista, even though it's tapped, it's got those 2 counters that it can throw around. At some point, Campanino may want to kill off Thalia, because it really is slowing down a lot of what he's able to get going here.
Ooh, big swings. All on Gideon.
And before blocks does kill off Thalia.
Yeah, kills off the best possible blocker. I think Sam is... I mean, he can probably... Yeah, he cannot save his Gideon. No, I mean, he can. He can have it survive on 1. And I think this is the most enticing option for me, because he doesn't have that many great blocks anyways, so might as well use the Thraben Inspector to chump one of the 3 power creatures, either a Toolcraft Exemplar or a Scrappy Scrounger, and just trade off with the other one. But the question is what he wants to trade with, and I think he might want to get rid of the Toolcraft Exemplar, because the Scrounger can just keep coming back. There's already 2 creatures in the graveyard.
Yeah, the reason that we refer to this deck as Mardu Ballista rather than Mardu Vehicles, actually not very many vehicles in this deck at all. Hearts of Kieran's in there because it is, of course, very powerful, but you don't see the likes of Cultivator's Caravan, and the Ballista, one of the cards that really stands out that is in this build as an extra means of board control.
Yeah.
We saw it doing good work just there.
I mean, it did a lot of damage there for the Gideon, but I was surprised that Sam Vuillot actually decided to trade off the Knight for the Pia. At least now there's no way for Fabrizio to pump up the Flying Topter, I guess that was part of the thinking for Samuel, why he decided to trade off there. We'll see if Fabrizio can punish Sam a little bit here. Some good cards. I think I see another Walking Ballista. Great at picking off Toolcraft Exemplars.
Yeah, Walking Ballista on the face of things looks like a really inefficient shock some of the time, but other points of the time it sits in play, making it difficult for Saheeli to go off, or it combines nicely as a creature that can just do something when you've got lots of mana that otherwise would just be lying fallow, and at some point attacks, throws counters around. It's a very versatile card.
Yeah, so here's the Ballista. Now it also has some additional purpose. It's going to make sure that the Toolcraft Example gets first strike, because that's the 3rd artifact in play. It's going to make it that much harder to block with. Everything goes at the Gideon again. This time, Samuel Vuillot cannot trade his Knight for a Toolcraft Exemplar, so he might be forced to block something else. But yeah, so he's going to trade with Scrounger here, and now he's going to chump block with his Trip Inspector, getting down to 3 here. At least he keeps the Gideon on the board for now. I can imagine losing the first one not that big of a deal because he had a spare one in hand, but he's out of cards, so he better draw something good here.
Yeah, living off the top here, Samuel Vuillot, in spite of being the first seed, kind of a little bit behind here. You can see his head in his hands as he considers what to do. It is Fabrizio Campanino that's got threats on the board and a card in hand before he even hits his draw step.
Right, and it's a good one. Walking Ballista. That's actually really good.
Yeah, can mow down a couple of creatures here quite happily.
Yeah.
Now, we're talking about this as a mirror match. This is not a pure 75 card mirror. There are a few differences, and I think we might want to point out some of them as we get going. In Fabrizio Campanino's deck, he has more in the way of flyers. So he has a couple of... in Fabrizio Campanino's deck, we have... let me just find her.
I think Archangel Avacyn and
Aethersphere Harvester. So 2 of each of those. Meanwhile, on the other side of things, main deck Chandra Torch of Defiance for Samuel Vuillot.
Now look at that. Sam Vuillot just, as predicted, he just starts swinging with the Gideon. He doesn't care. And I love this plan. It's just so much damage, fast. And look at that. Heart of Kieran only from Fabrizio Campanino. The Walking Ballista decimating the board on the other side, meaning that Fabrizio doesn't have anything to crew with just yet, but we know there's a Scrappy Scrounger coming in shortly. I'm surprised he or didn't bite back, but I guess the Heart of Kieran was just played anyway, so not like he could crew an attack right away, so this play makes sense. But on the other side, if now Sam Vuillot attacks with his Gideon, he won't have anything to defend with. He would have trouble against the Heart of Kieran anyway. So might as well just keep attacking.
Yeah, this might be a parting shot from Gideon Alayo Zendikar, but at this point it does mean that Fabrizio Campanino getting low on life, down to just 7 here.
He also still has that clue.
I mean, keeping an artifact in play, pretty handy for a number of cards, most notably Unlicensed Disintegration. But Vuillot says, you know what, I just need the cards right now. I recognize I'm going to lose my Planeswalker, and there's not much left once you get past that.
Yeah, and it looks like he drew something because he started lining up mana immediately. Might be bluffing, of course. We've seen a few players try their hands at bluffing.
Yeah, it's easiest to bluff when there's sort of you're in a position to threaten things. When you're sort of already a bit on the back foot, maybe your opponent just says, well, I just need to go for it. But the Scrap Heap Scrounger does come down here, or come up from the graveyard, I suppose. And the Scrounger looks to be the one that's coming in here on Gideon. 1 point coming through from the Thopter.
Yeah. Fabrizio is not accruing the hard. Okay. He changed his mind there a little bit on the attack there. He should be scared. So Fabrizio attacking with the Scrounger on the Gideon, just because if Samuel Vuillot indeed had a removal spell, he wouldn't want to lose his Heart of Kiran, because he can always just buy the Scrounger back, and there you have it. License Integration, no artifact in play, so no damage. Very important.
Vuillot, I'm guessing, must have drawn that from the clue.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he'd have a much bigger incentive to keep the clue in play.
Yeah, and there you see now a reason why Fabrizio should have kept the Thopter back, because he might need to chump block with it. He wants to keep his life total fairly high. If he fell down to 2, he could just die to the Walking Ballista very easily. Even though he already seen one.
All right, looks like Gideon is thumping into the red zone once again. A Thopter down from that attack.
Yeah, but now does Samuel Vuillot have something to protect his Gideon from the Heart of Kiran? I think he only has a Toolcraft Exemplar and one other card that I didn't quite get to see.
He may be simply just hoping that Fabrizio doesn't have too much to crew with, but I think there might be another creature in the graveyard to be able to get back that Scrap Heap Scrounger.
Oh.
I'm not
There's
quite sure.
plenty of creatures, I think, from the early turns.
Yeah.
There was like Walking Ballista, Toolcraft Exemplar.
We see the Italian there. This is second top 8 of the year. He was at the top 8 of GP Prague as well. It's been a good time for him when it comes to working with Aether Revolt.
Yeah, still plenty of creatures in this area. That's certainly not an issue. The issue would be if some of you now draws an artifact, those Toolcraft Exemplars become big. Yeah, and here's the Crew of the Heart of Kiran. Swing.
And he had to deal with Gideon sooner or later, and sooner is better.
Yeah, he still has an Unlicensed Integration, so you can definitely kill one of the Toolcraft Exemplars if there's an artifact on top of some of Vuillot's deck.
A lot of work still to do, though, for Fabrizio.
Indeed. Swing for 2. No, just for 1. And you take 3.
Turnabout's fair play, right?
Indeed.
Just the 1 point, but Fabrizio Campanino on 6 after that swing.
Oh, just a land there that Samuel has to play here, because we know that he still has challenges in his deck. With no artifacts in play, he wouldn't be able to play it otherwise. So revealing that he has nothing in hand, but a big 4-point swing from Fabrizio.
Another copy of Heart of Kiran, the only card left in Fabrizio Campanino's hand, means that he's not as concerned if it works out that first Heart of Kiran gets killed off, but he does need to be careful of his life total. Any time that this Toolcraft Exemplar gets a tool to hold, it becomes a pretty scary addition to the board. And here is Scrap Heap Scrounger, artifact in play, attack step. Yes, there's a trigger. It's a 3-2. And that's a big swing.
Yeah, that was a big draw step for Samuel, just getting the artifact, and it's Scrounger at that.
Yeah, of all of the creatures to have in play, this is the one that he can keep getting back from the graveyard.
Yeah, and it pumps up the Toolcraft Exemplar. Fabrizio down to 3. Has a Toolcraft Exemplar of his own, but they're not that good at blocking. They're much better at attacking, so the player who's attacking with the Toolcraft Exemplar at an advantage. Yeah,
well, there's only really one creature on the battlefield that's any good at blocking, that being the Heart of Kiran.
Yeah.
And Fabrizio Campanino on 3, he's going to be in rough shape here.
Indeed. But on the other side, If Vuillot attacks with both creatures here, the Heart of Kirin will eat the Tollcraft Exemplar, and but the Fabrizio's dwarf will have to block the other creature just to survive. It looks like some of you did draw something. It is a Thalia, all right, and it's a swing.
Yeah, the fact that Samuel Vuillot here has such a life advantage on his opponent does mean that he can be a little bit more aggressive in spite of the fact that Heart of Kirin is a good blocker.
Yeah, so they're basic trading exemplars here. Now the advantage firmly in Samuel Vuillot's court.
Looks like another land there for Fabrizio Campanino.
Yeah, and that's it. Wow.
Samuel Vuillot picking up the first game. Both these players looking a little flustered.
Yeah, like Sam is the disapproving look of Fabrizio Campanino was like, nah. And as you said, he topped it in Prague, and I think he really wants the title here. He lost in the quarterfinals in Prague right away, so he definitely wants to make sure that he gets the win there. And there's a trophy for the winner.
Yeah, great shot of our feature match area there. This, the very last match of GP Utrecht. Over 1,200 players initially showed up, just 2 of them still in the competition. Both these guys will be going to the Pro Tour, part of making top 8 or getting a record good enough to make top 8 does mean that you are guaranteed that shot at the Pro Tour, so we will see them later this year.
A good thing for Sam Vuillot is that the fact that his friend Alexander Habert also made top 8, which makes it always easier. You're flying to a foreign country with a friend, you have someone to test with, and I'm sure there's a bunch of other Frenchies that that will like to test with them, such as Elliot Busseau, they're that creator.
Yeah, it's always great to have travel partners, have people to test with, and also just people to hang out with when you're in a new city. Just makes everything a little bit more fun. And let's face it, Magic the Gathering, the reason we play it is because it's really fun.
Of course, yeah. And there, I was speaking about Elliot Busseau. He was there in the back with a hat on his head. Looking forward to that. And
he has to be feeling pretty pleased with himself.
Yeah,
he's been working on this deck a lot, and he's just seeing it do great work here at Grand Prix Utrecht. I would not be surprised at all to see this become kind of the ubiquitous version of Mardu going forward, because ultimately it's the one that's risen to the top at this tournament.
Yeah, on the other side, I think the meta will keep shifting a little bit here and there, some small innovations making the rounds. I felt that for this tournament, 4-color Saheeli would be pretty well positioned, because it just with some of the versions that I've seen floating around, they seem to be pretty good against black-green, and they had the tools to fight Mardu, especially post-sideboard. But the walking ballistas changed everything. Suddenly, when I'm seeing this deck, I wouldn't want to be on 4-color Saheeli.
Yeah, you've just casually, as a Mardu player, now got exactly the same kind of insurance policy that black-green has, which is this on-board trick that will stop the Saheeli combo cold, require them to have all the more pieces. And out of the sideboard, we've seen the likes of Authority of the Consuls, in addition to the main deck Walking Ballista and the main deck Thalia. Yeah,
of course, Thalia is great. The Authority, I don't like that much, but it's still like the main deck is already pretty good at fighting the deck, and just if you just add more removal and annoying cards, it really helps in that particular matchup. So I wonder how these players are going to board in, because they both have very different plans. Both have some more planeswalkers in the sideboards, but we've seen the Mardu Ballista deck of Samuel Vuillot deploy Oath of Chandra, Oath of Liliana, Nahiris, and Obnixilis, whereas Fabrizio only has, out of those cards, an Obnixilis of his own, and maybe he's going to board in Kalitas, because I saw him, he used that to his advantage in the semis, and I think it might be a matchup also about Release the Gremlins, getting the card advantage.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing that this build of Mardu has that maybe your more classic Vehicles bid didn't. They were looking at saying, we have very powerful cards, we will beat you up with said very powerful cards. And really the only sort of long-term source of card advantage, in a way, was with Scrap Heap Scrounger, because even if it died, you had a way of getting it back. These builds are saying, if the game goes long, we can generate a whole ton of card advantage. Release the Gremlins, dealing with multiple threats. You've got your various planeswalkers that are dealing with threats and still keeping something on the board to develop even further. You can still have fast starts, but it's not just about the fast starts anymore.
Yeah. I think they're going to board out some of the weaker creatures in this matchup and just try to turn into just a good value deck with some solid creatures that generate value. You know, your Scroungers, your Thraven Specters and such. But it's going to be interesting to see what they bring, because they can bring some real big haymakers. I see Fabrizio also packed some Sky Sovereigns. That's always something I like to see, even though release the Gremlins. on the Sky Sovereign. You know, we talked about it earlier in the weekend. There's always some gremlins hidden in the Sky Sovereign.
Yeah, they just pack them away in there. That's where they live. Sky Sovereign, Consul's flagship, but also Gremlin's hideout.
Gremlin hideout, indeed.
These players each just shuffling up, hoping to get a solid set of draws in the subsequent games. Cards to take out, I mean, you mentioned some of the smaller creatures. How good or bad is something like Fatal Push in this matchup?
It's still fairly important. It is some form of removal. It's not that great, though, of course.
I mean, I guess it always hits Walking Ballista.
Yeah, pretty much.
And if there is an early start, I mean, killing off Scrap Heap Scrounger always feels like kind of a painful position, but if people are sideboarding out creatures, maybe those Scrap Heap Scroungers don't become quite as exciting.
Yeah, I think a Fatal Push is the best deployed at killing Heart of Kiran, but I have the sneaking suspicion that they keep boarding out at least some number of Heart of Kirans, just because both players have enough removal and board present that it's just sometimes hard to crew Heart of Kiran, or that it just dies to those Fatal Pushes anyway. So yeah, we'll see. That's why I wanna see some more sideboard games, because we haven't seen that much of the Mardu Ballista deck from Samuel Vuillot in the pseudo mirror match.
And this will certainly be a valuable extra bit of information for anyone that's planning on playing this deck in the future. You need to learn the mirror matches if you're going to play any deck that's remotely popular, and I think that there's a good chance this deck will become popular. Looks like Samuel Vuillot, he's got, I don't know if he's got quite enough land there. He's brought in Oath of Liliana.
Yeah, I think he has a Swamp and an Inspiring Vantage alongside Fatal Push, Oath of Liliana. I think those should be decent enough. There's a Thraben Inspector.
Yeah, this one, because you're not as keen on crewing vehicles for this list, it's not really a big deal. It's only got one power. You love getting the artifact in play, and it's just a solid body that gets you do something of use on turn one.
Yeah, he's waiting on drawing of that card for some reason. Probably has seen it. Okay, it's an Ether Hub. Alright, another land. He leaves up the one swamp for the Fatal Push.
Energy coming for Ether Hub here. Looks like there is a Release the Gremlins along with an Unlicensed Disintegration in hand for Fabrizio Campanino. Already with the clue in play such that he's able to use it to deal 3 damage. And something we've talked about a little bit is occasionally targeting your own clue with Release the Gremlins as well, simply because it means that it's an artifact that is definitely going to hang around. You can get more gremlins out of it.
Yeah, not much being on either side. I wonder if Fabrizio has another land here, because playing Ether Hub second usually indicates that you have not much else left. There's Oath of Chandra that he boarded in, so I think with Samuel Vuillot he went for a big sideboard package with Oath of Chandra, Oath of Lilia, and a lot of the Planeswalkers as well. And it looks like Fabrizio did draw consecutive lands here, and he will be able to deploy some threats. We're going to see a Walking Ballista.
And one of the things that I think is kind of cool that you see with this deck that you maybe don't see so much with some of the other decks employing Oaths is the number of times that the extra trigger on the various Oaths actually get employed. So with Oath of Chandra, whenever a Planeswalker comes into play on your control at the end of turn, you get to deal 2 damage, assuming at least 1 came into play.
It just sounds so minuscule and like it wouldn't matter at all. But now that Oath of Liliana is added to the battlefield, if now Samuel Vuillot untaps into, for example, Gideon, you get the 2 damage, you get a zombie token, plus you can create an ally token. And like these small advantages keep creeping up over the course of the game and swing the advantage in one player's favor. Let's see if Fabrizio has something solid here. 4 mana usually can indicate a Gideon. I think it's just another Walking Ballista, and I think Sam Vuillot will be very happy about that.
Yeah, the Walking Ballista as one creature that can be very happily Fatal Pushed is a nice one for him to see rather than something scary out. Gideon is the draw for him. Does he have the 4th land? It looks like he does.
Wow.
It's an Ether Hub. He's going to gain an energy. He will not need to spend it to cast Gideon here. At some point there may be a Fatal Push on the Walking Ballista here. I don't know that that's necessarily going to be this turn though.
No, I think he's just going to slam a Gideon and make a 2/2 here. It seems like by far the best thing he could be doing. Remember, Oath of Liliana will generate him a zombie as well.
Yeah, picking out a whole variety of tokens here.
Yeah, you would think that Oath of Liliana is terrible in this matchup because but Scrappy Scrounger I can just sack. I can bring it back if ever it plays. But I think the fact that you also get zombies while killing something is actually very important.
It's an interesting one. 3 copies of Oath of Liliana in the sideboard for Samuel Vuillot. 0 copies for Fabrizio Campanino. Interested to see whether or not that's the difference.
Yeah, we'll see. And there's no artifacts yet on Vuillot's side, so no targets for Release the Gremlins.
Fabrizio Campanino drew Archangel Avacyn that turn.
Okay.
That's certainly something that can break open all sorts of stalls. Flash in, block something, then attack back, kill a Planeswalker.
I like that. I could also imagine Vuillot on his turn, once he untaps, he can maybe get a Gideon emblem, play another Gideon, get a 2/2, well, a 3/3 now, get another zombie, again, also a 3/3. That sounds like something I would like to do. Another fatal push from Vuillot.
Yeah, I kind of like where Samuel Vuillot is going with this.
Yeah.
Super friends with extra superpowers thanks to all of these oaths.
Yeah. I like it. But knowing Vuillot, and I've been telling this for a couple of rounds now, that whenever we've seen him in the feature match area, his default mode with Gideon has been play him, get a 2/2, next turn, plus swing for 5. And it looks like he might be doing that here.
Fatal push on Walking Ballista here. Putting a decision to Campanino as to where he wants to send that damage.
I think that's going to mean Archangel Avacyn.
At least this means that Samuel Vuillot is getting to know about the Avacyn before he attacks.
Yeah.
So there's a few things to think about here. Firstly, it means that he will know that at the moment his Gideon might be under threat.
Yeah. So in response to the Avacyn, I think Vuillot will tick down the Gideon down to 2 counters with his Walking Ballista.
Yeah, a second fatal push forcing that activity.
Yeah.
The first one didn't do a lot. The second one worked exactly as intended.
Yeah, surely you're not attacking Samuel Vuillot here into the 4/4 Indestructible Angel.
That being the case, it may well be ally time.
Yep.
Zombies and Night Allies all in perfect harmony.
Yeah, I think he has a Walking Ballista in his hand that he declined to play. Now he's going to take down the Gideon with the Avacyn. And this is one of the cards I like in Fabrizio's version. He runs those Avacyns. He also runs the Ether Sphere Harvesters.
He also has 1 Declaration in stone in his sideboard,
cool.
which I think he may have drawn. And
yeah, I think so.
That's going to be a good one for dealing with multiple tokens.
Either Night Allies or zombies. He has another Walking Ballista, it seems.
A lot of play between these 2 decks. Very interesting to see how they match up, because it does look like things working a little differently. Should that Avacyn have transformed? Because
No. It was still done in response to...
It's all in response to the Archangel. Okay.
Yeah, the Archangel needs to be in play for the trigger to happen. So, but now I wouldn't say the board is clear, but both players just having their resources. I think Declaration in Stone was very important, because now Sam Vuillot could have gone for a nice Gideon emblem and would have already 3. Yeah, we would have gotten another zombie, so 4 3/3s already. Nothing that can really attack into the Avacyn just yet, but it would, for following turns, it could have been a decent problem.
Yeah. Archangel Avacyn, definitely one that's going to require a strong response from Samuel Vuillot. For now, he has another copy of Gideon, and immediately cashes it in for an emblem.
Yeah, he's going to get another zombie here from the Oath of Liliana. Also 2 damage from the Oath of Chandra.
The Oath of Chandra damage also great at dealing with opposing Planeswalkers, because you can always redirect those 2 points to a Planeswalker in play. Yeah,
we've seen this over the weekend. Again, as we said, a minuscule thing, but it actually ends up mattering more than you would think.
Considering that Oath of Chandra has been played in many decks simply as a way of dealing 3 damage to a creature, having all of this extra utility, pretty exciting.
Yeah, indeed. And there's an Avacyn attack. And finally, we'll see some bigger swings of light totals. And actually, Fabrizio Campanino doesn't have that much going on. I think he has released the Gremlins and a Fatal Push in his hand. 1 more card. I have no idea what that one is, though. Oh, Obnixilis.
Hey, what? Hey, look, it's another Planeswalker to trigger all of these oaths.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. It's like again, these small advantages, now he'll be able to kill the Avacyn.
Now, Obnixilis is not part of the Gatewatch. I'm not sure whether or not I should call this one a flavor fail.
He doesn't have... the Gatewatch are not his friends, that's for sure.
But
that was a huge draw.
He's definitely not the friend of Avacyn. Ticking down in order to remove the one creature on the opponent's side of the board. Zombies swinging in, one of them getting fatally pushed.
Yeah, but it's still
it's already dead.
Coming in. Yeah,
flavor fails all over the place.
Yeah, but I mean, like the tokens are already 3/3s. Look, he's going to get one more zombie to replace that one and deals 2 damage. And Fabrizio Campanino also has to deal with the Obnixilis, because if he doesn't, Samuel Vuillot is going to take the title here.
And this released the Gremlins. It's been in Fabrizio Campanino's hand for the entire game. Nary an artifact in play.
And we know that there's still a Thalia. He just drew a Spirit of Industry. I think he'll be able to play a 3/3 Walking Ballista.
And Walking Ballista, crucially, an artifact that's not a very good target for Release the Gremlins. It may well be that this sideboarding has thrown Fabrizio Campanino for a loop. He's got a completely different game plan, Samuel Vuillot, after game 1. And it seems to be working out just great for him.
Yeah, now he has 2 3/3s in play. He was just milking the card advantage from those Planeswalkers. This is Super Friends, even though we talked about Obnixilis not being really being a friend, but it is like a Mardu Planeswalker deck, what it seems like. All right, I'm going to see a Ballista with 3 counters, so a 4/4 Walking Ballista.
Yeah, even that's interesting. If a Release the Gremlins got pointed at it, there would be a temptation to send 2 points at Fabrizio, then 1 point back at the Walking Ballista to kill it off.
Yeah,
but there's the handshake. Samuel Vuillot, after having had some kind of tricky rounds earlier and even a tricky game 1, after sideboarding, that was just a fantastically brutal display with all of those Planeswalkers, all of those oaths, and you can see there his friends just loving getting a chance to watch their friend winning this GP, taking it down. Congratulations to our GP Utrecht winner, that being Samuel Vuillot. This is the end of the round. We will have an interview with Samuel soon enough, but first, these messages. Hello and welcome. No messages for now, but we will have a message from Samuel Vuillot soon enough. It's been a bonkers weekend here in the Netherlands. We have seen a lot of different standard decks, some of which we're pretty familiar with, some of which completely new to us, and then ultimately in the finals, 2 slightly different versions of the same innovation on the Mardu Vehicles deck that won Pro Tour Aether Revolt. We can see already Samuel Vuillot getting the applause of his friends there as he lifts the trophy. We're going to get a chance to talk to him in a second, but in terms of what you've seen this weekend, Big Z, any particular things that have stood out to you?
Well, I did enjoy the Paradox engine decks that we've seen early in the rounds of day 1, and unfortunately they haven't done that well in the end, but alongside these, lots of really cool decks. Remember Hidden Stockpile over the weekend?
Oh, wow. 6-0, we saw Hidden Stockpile battling against one of these Mardu decks, and that was the point where it hit trouble, when there was suddenly something that was a bit harder to prepare for, a little bit new. There's still room for a little bit of innovation in this format, and I'm very excited to see where it goes from here. But we do have our Grand Prix champion just waiting in the wings. I'm looking forward to finding out about the details of where that sideboard plan came from.
Yeah, I also want to know too. So I'm going to let in some of you in the booth, and you ask him and I'll listen.
Lovely stuff. Congratulations, Samuel. A fantastic final for you. I'm just going to move that down there so that everyone at home can hear you. Now, when you came to this tournament, a slightly different version of Mardu.
Yeah.
How confident were you beforehand that you had the deck for the tournament?
Okay, so basically we have been testing a lot on Magic Online, and when the guy went up with the list with the ballistas, we knew it was the future. So we started testing this, but the sideboard, it wasn't really good, and we already played House of Liliana at the Pro Tour, and it was awesome. And so we just say, okay, let's go full houses with the full Planeswalkers and have a really mid-range controlly sideboard plan with the 4 Release the Gremlins as well for the mirror. And it was like...
it's a revelation.
I think people weren't ready as we were for this tournament.
Yeah, it was incredible watching Game 2 of the finals. Game 1, we kind of thought that we knew what was going on. There was a lot of back and forth. But Game 2, once you just turned into a Planeswalker deck, every oath that's in play just triggering again and again and again. Is that exactly how you drew it up?
Yeah, it was the idea. Like, you just generate value every time you play a Planeswalker, and it just goes on and on and on. And
on and on and on until you get the handshake, and you did get the handshake. You get one more because congratulations. We'll see you at the Pro Tour, and you get to go home from this GP here in the Netherlands, a champion. Samuel Vuillot, congratulations once more from everyone here in Utrecht. We have our champion. We have a new deck to look at in Standard. You guys have a great